So I've gone to 3 locations. One of them is known publicly, Stoney's. We did go out there.
You know, that was a first for me.
To go to Stoney's?
No, to get thrown out of a place.
Oh, yeah. Capture Aaron coming into court. I got him coming out of his car and walking into the building from the window above. It's very shitty. But Aaron knew that we were going to be recording, and he knew that we were there. There ended up being about 15 people there. I don't want to say they were all Aaron Imholt A-loggers or NLO fans. There were a lot of NLO fans. I'm sure a couple of the people were probably anti-Nick, Kiwi Farms people, mostly because they didn't introduce themselves. And they were kind of quiet. We didn't see Mama Kay. I didn't see her.
I didn't see her. She's easy to spot, kind of goblin-esque.
Goblin-esque. But yeah, so the whole plan and purchasing the camera for Aaron to come in just didn't manifest itself. It just was like the weather was just dog shit. It was really bad.
It was dumping rain.
There's literally no footage of Aaron. I did make a note here for people who are fashion conscious of what he was wearing. He went with the maroon suit jacket. He wore a black shirt, gray pants, and black shoes. I did not get to see the tie because he was facing forward the entire time. But that's the fashion statement he chose to make. Red is a bold choice for a suit for a defendant. I don't know if that's... Dude, you're not looking for a pop of color when you're...
No, you should... If you want something colorful as a suit, as a defendant, you can do... Like, what I did was you wore a plum. You could wear, like, plum or, like, a navy, something like that.
I did make a note here that the suit jacket appears to have a cigarette burn or some sort of burn on the back left shoulder where the back meets the shoulder seam. I walked in, as we all did, and I chose to sit right behind Aaron. At several points, the woman who came, who was in our chat earlier, Juju G or something like that, I was making her laugh because I was kind of where Aaron could hear it, right behind him, just going like, "We want toe. We want toe." On his suit. His posture was awful. I'm very fat. I don't look flattering sitting on this sofa in front of an Adonis like Nick, of course, but he was slumping. All his neck rolls were muffin topping over his collar. What I noticed that I'd never noticed before is how beady his eyes is. They almost bulge out of the socket. That was interesting to see. And just his features are severe, is how I would describe them. They're just the chin, he's just a severe-faced man.
So for as much time as I spent with this person, I didn't notice that until the Hackamania video that he sent in for Vito when he wasn't wearing the headphones.
Glasses.
And
he had no glasses.
Right, and he looked like every gym teacher from a 90s movie, except without any muscles.
Right.
And it was just, it was so weird seeing him. I was like, God, that doesn't even look like him. It looks like a plastic doll. And he looks the same now.
It was surreal even so. He never looked at me. He never saw me. And I was just one row away from him. The courtroom only has 3 rows of benches. I sat right behind him. And it was just surreal being in the same room. I kept clicking my pen right behind his head I know he had to know I was right behind him because he was taking little furtive glances left and right, and I was nowhere to be seen.
I was wondering if he would look back at us, but he never did.
And I just kept clicking my pen. The bailiff kept looking at me because I would raise it up when I did it. I was going like this. I was going like click, and I thought that was pretty funny. Aaron and his lawyer comes back in. The judge is on the stand, and I see Todd Peterson do this. This was insane. He looks up at the judge and he goes, "Thumbs up, thumbs up." I don't even think she saw it. She was looking down because he sat down next to Aaron again. And I knew just something changed. They were in the back talking. The prosecutor Todd Peterson and the judge, and then Aaron and him went out, and I go, something's up. Like something changed. Like, and bad for Aaron because what if they were just there to do the plea deal, slap on the wrist for the violations, it wouldn't have been all that.
No.
And I'll get to the moment you walked in a minute, but like, so I knew something was up, and so the judge goes, Mr. Peterson, are you ready? So she didn't see the thumbs up at all. And so they go, yes, Your Honor. So Aaron and him got up and slinked to their chairs and sat down. And it was that point the victim advocate, who had been standing in the back, went and got you and Kayla, told somebody to scoot down so that you guys would have seats. And you come in, and I look over at you, and you look over at me with a grin on your face, and you just mouth these words, watch this.
So I can't get into.
He just goes, watch this.
I can't recount the words specifically, but the prosecutor came and visited with Kayla and I before the hearing. What I can tell you is that her main purpose was to say, we're probably not going to have the sentencing hearing today. It looks like we're just going to deal with the release condition violations. And
it's great how they merged those two hearings, Aaron.
And so that's going to push the sentencing to a much later date. And they checked with us to make sure that the date range that they estimated it would be, that we didn't have any conflicts, so that Kayla could be there if she wants to be there. And then they were saying, you don't have to, you're not going to read your statement today or anything because there's no sentencing hearing. So if you don't want to come in, you don't have to. But if you want to go in and watch, you do. And I was like, you can stay out here if you want, but I really want to go in and see what happens.
Well, spoiler alert, later it did seem like they did have an option to get sentenced today, but it would not have gone well.
No, not well at all.
The general tone, I'll just let you know, everything Aaron has said about this prosecutor being friendly and cordial and professional, this bitch ain't on side. This bitch is not.
She's a lot younger than I expected.
She's not friendly with Aaron. She is not. She doesn't think this is all horseshit lawfare. She's 100% taking this seriously. Let it be known, and I'll get to the notes in a minute.
So is the judge.
Every single thing that every troll or whatever you want to call yourselves, public, reporters have sent into this woman, she has received, she has cataloged reports of violations on his show, reports of him mentioning Kayla on his show directly or indirectly, clips with timestamps. She got it all. She's on top of it. So that's not falling on deaf ears. Every time Aaron says like, oh, people are just sending stuff in, just trying, she's getting it and it's working. Aaron can try to spin this like the prosecutor's so friendly and professional and he really appreciates her and she'll be the next Miss Imholt all he wants. But that is not the case. He's crossing the line of what the court has ordered. And it's very clear that he is not taking it serious. Those are the words she used.
There's one more specific line that I think matters. She said, there are more than enough violations to cross what we consider harassment under the law. She's very specific. Like, this has gone. This isn't a one-time thing. There are tons of things that they have determined to be violations.
At that point, the judge handed it over to Todd Peterson. This was.
Can I say something right before you describe Todd Peterson's speech?
Yes.
I used to think that Todd Peterson was competent and that Aaron was retarded and just didn't understand what his attorney was telling him. And so he was coming out and spinning. After the letter that he sent earlier this week or last week or whatever, and then his performance in court today, I was just like, nope, he hired the most idiotic defense attorney I've ever encountered. And that includes me.
This gets handed over to Todd Peterson. I shit you not. This man goes, Your Honor, my client is a homeowner. Why not say his credit score, you retard? Like, what are we doing at this point? This is what you have to say for him? My client is a homeowner. He graduated from Brown College. I'm looking around like seeing if he is about to run out of a tunnel at a football game. I don't know what's going on. He's the owner of Steel Toe Media Inc.,
which isn't true.
It doesn't even matter. Don't bring that up. That's what's causing all the problems. I would shut my fucking face about that. Like that's what's caused all these issues. He's never had a felony. Now, what's interesting about that is he's had numerous misdemeanor charges for harassing women, and now he's in trouble in front of the court for not obeying court orders during a case about harassing women where he violated it by continuing to harass said woman. But he doesn't have any felonies, you guys. He said these words, which is fucking insane. I have advised Aaron throughout this case not to discuss the case or mention the defendant, and it's clear that he understands that. The first words out of the judge's mouth, Mr. M. Holt, I am not amused. She accused him of continuously harassing the victim and said, I have seen the several violations about this. I've given you a no contact order. And
she went over the order again, and she said, you are not to have any contact, direct or indirect. You are not to mention directly or indirectly on, and then she listed off a bunch of stuff: social media, any broadcast, any
anything
production
you can think of that she could see that you talk about her.
Don't.
Privately, publicly, if she could see it, you better not do it. This plea deal is done. This plea deal is fucked.
Yeah.
This woman was about to send this man to jail. If that lawyer was so stupid that he had answered the question, yeah, let's go ahead and just do sentencing today, Aaron was going to jail. I have a feeling she's not going to accept any plea that does not have jail time in it.
And you know who else has that feeling? Todd Peterson.
Yes. I have a feeling a lot of the people involved in the case know that. I can't say that I know that. I have a feeling this judge is not going to accept any plea that doesn't include jail time. Just call it a hunch back. Rescheduled for another hearing, for a sentencing hearing on October 2nd at 11 a.m. because Scott Peterson demands a transcript of the plea hearing. Why would Scott want a transcript of that plea hearing?
So this is the big...
This plea's going to be dead in the water. This plea's not going to matter. Why does he need that transcript of a plea hearing?
So his exact words were, we want to pull a transcript of the plea hearing to consider our options. So you only have really two options once you've entered a plea agreement for guilt, and that is to proceed with the plea agreement or you withdraw the plea agreement.
Right.
And that's the only two options you have as a defendant.
But why would he be so interested in what was said at the plea hearing?
This is the key. The plea agreement itself cannot be used as evidence of someone's guilt.
So he was going to plead guilty,
right?
And
he
do
did.
This.
He did plead guilty,
but if this plea agreement is withdrawn, they cannot use him pleading guilty for that plea agreement.
Right? They can't say you pled guilty with this thing and you withdrew the plea agreement, so you're guilty. They can't do that. But everything you say about the plea agreement in court and out of court is admissible.
So if he were to go on his show after he signed this plea agreement and admit that he did do it, say that he did it to be malicious, say that he did it to bully Kayla, say that all these things, which he did several times.
His exact words
as late
were,
as last week. Now he has so again, before the plea agreement, he never said I did it. He never said I did it. The minute he signed that plea agreement and thought he was safe and thought this was all done, he couldn't stop saying how he did it. He was ashamed of it. He's sorry he did it, but he was malicious. He was bullying a woman, and all that can now be entered into evidence. And should they need to come up with a new plea agreement now, the prosecution may not even be interested. The felony may be back on the table, because now he's admitted it, and the component that made it a felony versus the misdemeanor was the intention. And now that he has publicly stated, my intention was to bully and harass her, there is a mic drop line in that victim impact statement. And basically, there's part of the whole thing that she's basically roasting Todd Peterson. Like, not only is Aaron a piece of shit who doesn't give a about the victim in this case, and there's a line in there regarding that letter where he said maybe she should just stop watching. And there's a line in that letter, and it says, why should I have to close my eyes because your client can't close his mouth? And I was like, the thing is, he's got to be very careful now of guests, of guest hosts.
Oh, you know what's funny?
Callers.
I only know one of the violations, but I know one very specifically.
Okay.
It was the one where Aaron invited Gino Bisconti and Keanu to answer questions while hosting his show that he wasn't allowed to say. And then Keanu, the dumb pile of matchsticks that she is, went on her show and confirmed not only that Aaron said that, but in private asked them specifically to answer as many of those questions as they can. Good job, you dumb fucking retards.
Jesus Christ.
That's a specific one of the violations. You got your boy in jail.
Yeah, and the judge was clear again. She laid these out like to a kindergartner. She said, any show you have control over, you are responsible for. The mentions. An indirect mention. He can't say, I can't talk about that person. That's an indirect mention. He cannot say that. And I imagine any show you have control over means, I would assume to a certain degree, his appearances on other shows as well as allowing guests and callers to call into his show and mention any kind of thing about Kayla.
So
playing videos, he's going to have to be really careful with. People are going to be trying to get him on this now, just like they did with the picture of Kayla down in the thumbnail. That whatever that compilation was, where her head was on somebody,
right?
You know, like he's got to watch that stuff.
So when she said the control over, that's referring to he has control over what his employees that he hired, that he openly stated he's paying to fill in for him. Those are the shows he has control over. She mentioned any show you appear on as a separate thing. So if he goes on MLC, and I'm guessing the MLC clip was probably on there as well, where the judge is not expecting him to sit, like to run away to the bathroom or whatever, but he should have immediately left the stream.
I think he did that one time when Kayla was on his show too, when she was, when Kiki was on his show too, and she started talking about Kayla, and he got up and like left for a second.
Yeah,
he does it all in humor, you know?
Right? But you can't do that. Like, you're under a restraining order. You don't have full free speech anymore. You gave up part of that. Yeah, I don't know what his spin is going to be. I'm guessing he's going to say, look, they thought there were violations. We disagreed. We didn't even really get a chance to argue them. But, you know, all they did was they reaffirmed.
Well, the judge said, I found that you violated.
Yeah. But that's not what he's going to say, though. Right? Because
that's why you got arrested.
He didn't even realize that they were on for a hearing of the violations, because Todd Peterson asked for this in his letter. He asked for it to be delayed until this time, or deferred until this date.
Right.
Which is like, they're going to already calendar it on this date anyway. You weirdo. You have a motion, or you have a hearing.
This is a prerequisite of sentencing. Like, sentencing, they can't come back and do this after sentencing. That wouldn't make any sense. This is a violation of something that happened prior to sentencing in the same case.
The funny thing is, Aaron and Todd both thought that they could not extend and continue the sentencing date. And they argued that in chambers. Well, Todd did. Todd argued in chambers that they can't...
She
you
gave
have
him
to
the
sentence
option.
him.
She said, do you want me to sentence him today?
That's because in chambers, he said, you have to do the sentencing today, which is going to moot the release condition violations. And the judge and the prosecutor are like, no, we don't.
So he believes that too. He doesn't.
That's what he argued.
I gave this analogy this morning. It's like a flag being called on a football play, but a player made it to the end zone saying like, no, but I made a touchdown, so your flag is moot. And it's like, No, while you could have violated, you did violate.
Yep.
So the fact that it's over today doesn't matter. Like
so the reason that in Minnesota most violations don't generate a new criminal charge, the court has the discretion when it's a violation of a restraining order or a domestic assault restraining order to file a contempt of court charge. But those are the two specific things. To get to a contempt of court charge in this instance, the prosecutor would have to argue that the judge's release conditions were equal enough to a restraining order to trigger the law, which they avoided by just not having to do that. But so it wasn't a separate criminal charge.
they are essentially a restraining order.
They are. And I think the prosecutor would win that argument, but I haven't researched it, so I don't know for sure. That being said, this was a way to kind of get around having to figure that out. Normally they're not criminal charges. Now, if Kayla gets her own HRO, which now that he has had several release conditions violated, it would make an HRO just a foregone conclusion.
It's a court record now that he violated. The judge said it. I find that you have violated on multiple occasions.
Yep.
And so this is what I'm doing.
And he's admitted to the dissemination. So those things combined make an HRO a foregone conclusion.
Slam dunk.
It's going to just happen. So that might be filed, within the next day.
Vince Griswold, drug addict. How did... That's you?
That's me. Cool.
Hey, drug addict. How did select... Oh, I shouldn't read. You don't want anything about your kids on here, right?
No, that wasn't my kids. And I know which message you're talking
How
about.
did the pill bottle end up in your pill head's wife's possession? I don't know.
It wasn't. It was in my possession. It was an antiviral pill. Like it wasn't a controlled substance or anything like that.
This is a prescription medication?
Yeah. And so it was an antiviral because I had a viral infection. And shockingly,
Herpes?
my mother had a similar viral infection. She said, "Hey, I have a med for that." And so she was like, "Try this out."
Herpes.
No.
It's herpes. You're never
Yeah,
leaving.
eventually we have to go. So let's just keep going.
All right. I like your attitude, Rekieta. Hold on. Now this is frozen.
Can you turn off my camera for just a second?
Yeah, hold on. You going to give smoke signals?
Yes.
Yes, you're off.
Okay. Get out of here.
Oh, she's crossing over.
Yeah.
You don't want her breaking.
She's maintained a good habit of staying off the internet. No need to break it now.
I get it.